What's up, friends, and welcome back to the channel. Hi if you're new here, hi if you're not. Today we have yet another interview series here on the channel. And today's conversation in particular is interesting because we talk about not only this individual's journey through MLM, but also being a client of an MLM coaching program, being a perpetrator of an MLM coaching program, their journey through processing the guilt that often comes associated with essentially roping people into a coaching scheme, even when you know you might be putting them in a financially uncomfortable position, for lack of a better term, which actually also leads me to the point where we talk about accumulating lots of debt on credit cards, the need for responsibility financially within the industry, and honestly, just so many great things. I'm super excited for you to listen to this interview. Be sure to leave me your feedback in the comments down below. If you enjoy the series, consider giving this video a thumbs up. And if you have a coaching scam story that you want to share, the form to submit your story is linked down below. Let's take a minute to give a big thanks to the channel Millionaire VIP members, as well as those in the beloved Rich Billionaire tier. Thank you so much for your support of my channel. Subscribe if you're interested in this type of content, and let's go ahead and jump right in.
Well, hello, my name is Kayla Bell. I am 29. I live in West Tennessee with my husband. We've been married for about 7 years now. We were high school sweethearts. We have a bunch of fur babies, no real humans yet. We're not there yet. We live in our little hometown that we grew up in. So my story is probably a little bit different. I have been an entrepreneur ever since I was in college. Ever since I graduated college, I've never really had a 9 to 5. And just a little, I guess, childhood background. So I'm someone that before I would have considered myself like an Enneagram 1 and 3. So very high achieving, perfectionist, success, was always my dream and goal growing up. Just growing up in a chaotic household. My parents had the broke, poor mindset, didn't manage money well. I was very focused on school and having perfect grades, straight A student, overachiever. I graduated all school and college with a 4.0. And so going into college, I was very much lost on what I wanted to do, didn't really know who I was, lacked self-confidence. I just knew I was very good at school, and I just felt pressure to go to college like most of us do, especially being in a house where my family didn't go to college. And so I was very lost and confused. And I also kind of was dealing with some personal issues with acne. I decided to take birth control like most young people do, and it totally messed up my skin and hormones. And so that just made my self-confidence even worse. And so I definitely struggled with some anxiety, some depression, self-isolation, in college. Was just focused on school and just focused on graduating, being successful, hoping that would make me feel better about myself, I did most of my life. And so my senior year of college, I was a fashion merchandising major, which was totally out of my wheelhouse. I was always a math person, that logical brain person. And I loved fashion, though. It gave me self-confidence in myself. So I decided, okay, why not do this? I can't see myself at a desk job the rest of my life. I can't go there. I just feel there's something more that I want. And so the opportunity came up for me to buy a boutique locally where I live. And so right before I graduated, I bought the boutique. So I was running this boutique and graduating at the same time, high achiever syndrome. Yeah, no team, no sleep, just hustle. I was hustling before I joined hustle culture, you know. And so after I graduated, me and my husband got married, and then I was a year into my boutique. It was really successful. It was already a pre-established business, and I was making 6 figures, but had no idea how to handle that money. Did not have the mindset of a successful CEO, entrepreneur. And I was just still feeling self-conscious. I was just feeling I was trying to fill this void with success, but I got success and still wasn't happy. And so I started seeing all of these Beachbody coaches on Instagram. So going into the hole. So I saw a coach who was really confident, in really great shape, really bold in her faith. And I was didn't really have much of a faith yet. I kind of grew up around it, but I didn't really have my own. And I was kind of in a weird place with God at the time. So I decided to join her Beachbody team and join one of her boot camps, if you're familiar with Beachbody boot camps. So I started my health and fitness journey thinking, okay, like, well, this is going to make me feel better about myself. I'm going to be confident and happy. And a month into like being in a boot camp, I was getting in like really great shape. And I'm always someone who's been like really skinny. Like I never really had a weight issue. It's more just like a skewed like self view of myself. Like I thought I was fat, but like no, I've never been fat, you know. And so I got in really great shape within a month. And I was like, okay, well, she was telling me like you would be a great coach. So okay, like why not become a coach? So I become a Beachbody coach after a month, and I'm a Beachbody coach while owning my boutique at the same time. Again. And so my coach was very high achieving. Like she had been in Beachbody for like 4 years. Like she was making 6 figures. She had time and financial freedom. And I see her happy. I'm like, okay, well, I want that. You know, I feel really tied down with my brick and mortar business. Like I'm not really that fulfilled doing it. I see her like living out this big purpose. I'm like, I want that. And so like within like 8 months, I'm hitting like this big rank in Beachbody. I decide to like sell my boutique and like go full-time in Beachbody. Yeah, like big drastic decisions is what I used to
That's
do.
huge.
Yeah.
That decision, that's wild.
Yes. So then a year of Beachbody, I hit another big rank. I'm like one of her top like achievers in the community. And another reason I really was in Beachbody was because like I didn't really have a lot of friends. Like most of my friends like moved away from our hometown. Like I stayed. And so that community piece really took me in. Like, you know, I felt isolated and was craving like community and friendship, you know. So I'm like a year into Beachbody. I'm hustling, I'm staying up late, I'm waking up early, I'm sacrificing, you know, time with my husband because that's what they tell you to do to be successful. You know, sacrifice now and then you can have what you want later. I'm sending out cold DMs, like all the cold invites, because that's what I'm told to do, because that's just like my personality. Like if you tell me what to do, give me a plan, I'm gonna do it. I'm like type A personality. And then I come across, it's like summer of 2019. I'm a year into Beachbody and I'm getting so tired of like sending out cold invites and like hustling at the end of the month just to hit these like ranks and these like markers of like Success Club. All my Beachbody coaches like probably know it, like, and it's like past trauma. And to come across this coach, a business coach, she follows me. She was a past Beachbody coach, and she's teaching Beachbody coaches like how to hit Success Club and have a bunch of people in your monthly boot camps without sending cold invites. And if you're a Beachbody coach, like that is a big pain point. Like you do not want to send cold invites.
Right. And in Beachbody specifically, isn't there a huge push for like your 100s list where you like have the 100 people in your
Yes, and I
messaging?
had that. The
Or like
list
I've
of
seen
100
like
people.
Power Hour where
Yeah,
like you sit down for an hour and message as many people as you can.
and I did that. And like you get maybe like 2 people that say yes out of it, and then it's like they don't even like long term, like they don't even last. They end up like falling off, you know, because it's like, yeah, not the way to do business. And so I see this coach, she has never like really sent out cold invites. Like she's hitting like these high numbers in Success Club without sending cold invites. Like she's teaching you how to do that. And so immediately like that just pulls on like a desperation, like pain point for me. Like I want to build this Beachbody business. I want to be in the Millionaires Club. I want to be like, you know, hitting high ranks without sending cold invites. Like my coach is telling me to, because it's exhausting. Like it doesn't feel good, but I'm just doing it to be successful. And so I joined this business coach's 1 week free challenge. You probably are familiar with those. And she's like teaching you like ideal client. Like she's teaching you how to talk to people's pain points, like how to really like hit people in the field so they'll join your stuff. And of course, like after a week of that free challenge, like she pitches her one-on-one coaching, and immediately I'm like, I need this. Like I feel like this was like
Because you've been brainwashed for 5 days leading up to it.
exactly. And she's like, you know, if you don't join, like where you're going to be with your business, you're going to be in the same spot. Like again, that pain point marketing. And so I apply for her coaching, and then I get on the phone with her that night, and she's asking me like, you know, what are my big goals in Beachbody? I'm like, you know, Millionaires Club, like 15 star, like that's like the highest rank. And she tells me it's like $2,000. It's for 2 months, which to me, like being a past business owner, that wasn't a lot of money to me because I had invested like in my boutique before. So it wasn't necessarily the money. It was just like, okay, she's like, well, I need to know tonight. Like I need to know like
Yeah,
as
they
soon as
give you
possible.
a very short period of time where it's like, "This offer expires in 24 hours, and if you don't say yes, you're gonna be a failure."
And that's what she was basically like, okay, like I've got like so many people like waiting to like talk to me. Like I've got other calls, like, I've only got 5 spots. Like I need to know tonight. And so I'm like desperate to be successful still. And I get off the phone, I'm talking to my husband. I'm like, this could really change everything. Like this is going to really help me like build this business full time, because I gave up my boutique and I decided to do this full time, and I really want to like retire my husband from his 9 to 5 job. Like that was the dream in Beachbody. And she painted the picture perfectly that she could help me do that. And so I messaged her back like an hour later and like I applied for her coaching. And so I'm with her in 2 months. And this is also creating like tension with my coach because she's upset that I'm like hiring someone underneath her to help me with business and like not looking to her anymore for business. And so she taught me some good, like practical, like, social media, like creating valuable content, not just talking about yourself, but actually having an ideal client, which I thought was like super helpful. And I think I signed like one client within our 2 months. So it wasn't necessarily like as fast as what I would have wanted it and what my coach was like expecting of me, like being like a top earner, like on her team. And so after those 2 months, like we're finishing that container and she's like, you should think about leaving Beachbody to start your own coaching business. She's like, that you see what I'm making, like you don't have to get paid based off products anymore. Like you can work with people one-on-one. And that really like reeled me in.
She planted the seed.
Exactly.
"Do I have an opportunity for you?"
Because she did it and she had like a $10,000 launch, like with me and like 4 other people like signing up for her one-on-one coaching within like a week. And I see that shiny object syndrome has like been like the story of like my coaching industry life.
Well, and especially I think when you're in an MLM, I've never been in an MLM, but I consume a lot of the content. And
Yeah,
I think that it's like a lot of the times it's a lot of effort for very little return.
it
So
is.
if you see this opportunity where you're like, I could match my paycheck or make more than I'm making in my MLM by starting this coaching business, well,
Mm-hmm.
obviously I'm going to do that. Like I have the skills and experience to be successful, right? Like that's the kind of thing that you would
Exactly.
convince yourself.
And that was like my thinking, like, okay, like I can get out of this company and their rules and their standards and their monthly metrics and just like get charged what I want, like make what I want and like help people. Like who wouldn't want to do that? So I decided to leave my team and she asked me if I wanted to re-sign with her. And it just wasn't like, I was a little hesitant because like I had put the initial investment, like $2,000 for those 2 months on a credit card. And I was in the process of paying off debt and becoming debt free because like that's, one of the goals with being an MLM is like time and financial freedom and debt freedom. And I decided to put that on a credit card, even though that didn't align with like my long-term goals, but I saw it as an investment, And so I think it was a month later, she reached out to me and was like, I've got like one spot left in like long-term coaching, like starting in January, like where are you at with starting your coaching business? And I was like, I'm going all in. And so I ended up re-signing with her, like putting it on a credit card again, like, and she'd upped her prices. Like it was like $1,000 a month, and then it went up to 2,000 after her launch.
So initially she was coaching you on how to be successful in your MLM, and then you hired her to be your coach to teach you how to build your coaching business, correct?
Exactly.
Okay.
So I signed with her. I get started with like doing one of her programs to launch my coaching business. The start of the new year. This is like end of 2019, like start of 2020. And she's like, okay, well, why don't you help other Beachbody coaches like with their business, like what she did to me, the pyramid. Yeah. So I was
Of
like,
course.
even though I only signed like one client while she helped me like learn new strategies, like how is that like enough proof for me to help people? But of course, like I justified it because I was like, okay, I was a Beachbody coach for a year and a half. I know how they're feeling. I know like what they want. I know they want to be able to do this without sending cold invites. I've learned it. I signed a client. Like it was just like all justification.
And I think it's important to note there, because I had a similar experience as well, is like, because you're being told by someone who you've paid to be your mentor,
Mhm.
they're like verifying these feelings. So you might think in your head like, oh, I'm not qualified. Oh, maybe I shouldn't do that. And that's like a legitimate concern. But because
Yeah,
you have this coach or mentor telling you like, no, 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 it's fine. Go ahead and do it, you're more inclined to like convince yourself that it's okay. You're like, oh yeah, she did it and she's successful, so I can do it too.
exactly. And you're paying them like 2,000 a month. So it's like, and their job is to help you make money. So you're going to do what they tell you to do, especially if you put it on a credit card. It's like you need money. Yeah. So we plan for me to have my first launch like 2 months after this. Like my niche is like Beachbody coaches, like helping them like, build their business, like build sustainable business without like hold invites, because that's like the big pain point in Beachbody. And her like promise that she could guarantee her clients is a 5-figure launch within 3 months of starting their business. And I was going for that like she did. And so, because I was like, got to get to success like right, like in a hurry, like right away, as soon as possible. That was like my old mentality. And so I do the free challenge. I have like 40 people in it, like big engagement, like way more engagement than I ever have when I was doing Beachbody. Like I nailed the marketing perfectly, like the pain points, like everything. And this challenge was successful. Within like 3 days of me launching, I signed like 3 clients, and I have like a $12,000 launch, which was like huge.
And where did you find those leads? Were they people that you had in your downline, or were you running ads?
So it was just all like organic marketing. So I like started a brand new Instagram. Like I used my personal Instagram when I was a Beachbody coach. Well, I left that to start over because I was like done with like trying to market to people that I went to high school with and stuff like that. It's like we're starting over, brand new. And I just started like following like Beachbody coaches, like tons of them that seemed similar to me. And that was like my lead generation that she like taught me. I think I had like less than 100 followers on Instagram.
That's pretty impressive then, to have like a 40% conversion rate into a
Yeah.
free
I
offer.
was like mind blown. I was like, is this real? Like, am I really making $12,000 like from like less than 100 followers? And people just easily said yes, like on the phone, and they had the money. I'm like, okay.
So then you launch this program, and what ends up happening?
So the program is 3 months, and I signed 3 clients from it, and 2 of them like had the money, like gladly paid it, like knew what they were signing up for, like they knew I was going to teach them, like like organic marketing, like auto client, market to what they want and like pain points and stuff like that, like what my coach had taught me. And one of them, and this was like really one of my like moments that I realized, okay, like I was doing something like unethical. One of my clients was hesitant to sign up because she was going to have to put it on a credit card. And of course I had that 5-figure goal in mind, and I like pressured her and like told her, you can make it back, like kind of painting the picture that my coach painted for me. And she ended up signing, even though she was like hesitant, because we were taught to objection handle, and it's just fear. And she was my only client who like was probably one of the worst experiences I've had with a client, because she like didn't really show up. Like she just talked about how stressed she was about the money. And this was when COVID hit. This was like February, March of 2020, when all that stuff happened. And so she was getting scared about that. So she didn't really show up. My other 2 clients did really well. I think they signed like a couple new like boot campers and a couple coaches like while during our time together. And so after that, I ended up re-signing with my coach again, like in a mastermind, because she's teaching you how to like scale and how to get to those 10K months and things like that. And I still didn't like, of course I made the money back from that launch to like pay what I had been putting on a credit card initially, but then I was still like using a credit card again to like re-sign with her again, because I saw like, what she could help me like scale it to like she was doing. And so I think it's like May or June, I end up like not re-signing with her because I feel like really good about like the strategy and things like that. Oh, but before that also, I'd hired another coach back in January. I forgot about that, for money mindset. because that was something I really struggled with, just from childhood, and just like really in Beachbody, you really learn like this scarcity mindset. And she was here to help me like with an abundance mindset. So I'm paying like two coaches at the same time of me like having my first launch, and it's all going on a credit card.
You're just crossing your fingers, hoping you make it back.
Yes, exactly. And so after I left my business coach who was teaching me strategy, I decided to keep continuing with my mindset coach, because that was when I kind of was more exposed to like the spiritual coaches who can teach you how to like make money by working less and like really focusing on your mindset and things like that. And so I decided to launch a course, because that was like the next step that my business coach had taught, after you sell one-on-ones, then launch a course. And this course was targeted to help like Beachbody coaches like leave Beachbody and start a business like I did. Again, like just modeling like what I'd been taught. And I think I signed like one person from that launch. And so I'm still paying this coach. And then I decided to launch my one-on-ones again. And this was another like red flag for me of something that I'd done, like I knew like was unethical, but was just doing it like out of fear and scarcity, because I'm, putting money on a credit card and paying a coach and need to make money. This person, I'd upped my prices. Like my coach had taught me, she upped her prices after she had a successful first launch. I decided to up my prices. So initially my price was like 1.3K a month. I bumped it up to 2,000. Like charge your worth, like your time is super valuable, And I signed this client, and she didn't have the money. She had to put it on a credit card. And I knew she didn't have the money, and she was a student in school, so she's not even making a full-time income. And she's about to pay me $2,000 a month for like the next 6 months. And so after the first month, she messaged me in our client container and was like, I don't have the payment, like bawling her eyes out. And I'm telling my coach about it, like my mindset coach that I still have, my spiritual mindset business coach. And she's telling me, you need to tell her, like, these were, the standards of the container, like you're not upholding them. Like this is a situation you're putting me in.
It's out of integrity to break the contract. I don't care if you can't afford it. It's out of integrity. That's what they say.
Exactly. And like, of course, I'm only thinking about myself, because I'm paying someone on a credit card, and I'm paying a VA, and I'm paying also a bookkeeper, because I was taught to do all those things early, even though I actually really didn't need them. So I have all these business expenses, and I'm about to lose this client. And so I end up like just deciding to let her go, because I just felt like it was just like too stressful on us both. This is like August of 2020. But I had to make a deal with her to finish paying like what she owed me, because I actually stretched out her payments more, like an extended payment plan, so she could pay me less than $2,000 a month to be able to do it. And she was actually hiding it from her husband too. So just a bad situation. And so I think she finishes paying me like in December of 2020. We leave on a really bad note. Like I'm very like not compassionate, like not really like empathetic about it, because of the situation it put me in. And those were like big wake up calls for me. Also, I ended up like taking like a break from my business, I think in like October of 2020, just after that had happened. And then there was some issues in my marriage, because I was like racking up so much debt, and like not really hadn't built this like consistent income yet. And those were just another big wake up call for me. And I ended up taking this break, but I still have this coach that I'm paying. So I'm not making any money, and I'm still paying this coach like $2,000 a month through the end of 2020.
This is a common story I see and I hear a lot. Like I was reading something similar on Threads yesterday, and I did an interview earlier this year, which for those of you watching, I'll link in the cards right here. But the woman in that interview was explaining how her kind of breaking point in coaching was when she realized like she was spending all this money, but constantly having to chase, the next client in order to cover those expenses. Yeah. And so I think oftentimes, because there's this consistent narrative of like, you need to invest in order to be successful, you end up in this position where your expenses to run your business are so high that unless you constantly have new people coming into the funnel that you can convert into clients, you're going to very quickly reach a point where you're spending way more money than you're actually making, which is obviously not a productive way to run a business.
Exactly. And that's where I was. And also, I didn't mention, like, I hired another coach that summer. Again, I was like sucked into like the spiritual mindset business coaches. And I think I did like an NLP session with her for 2 hours, was $3,000. And I put it on my credit card and didn't tell my husband about it.
Exactly. That's the thing. And you're probably working with mentors who are telling you about, oh, go check out Sarah and go look at Becky and all these other people. And this person's great for this and that person's great for that. And then you end up hiring all these people and they all cost thousands of dollars. And then you end up like, did it really actually help me? I don't know.
Yeah. So I went from like the business, like strategy coaches to like the spiritual, like business world, like really fast. Cause like mindset was just like a big thing that was helping me so much, like as someone who had struggled with confidence and things like that. And I was like, okay, well, if I can work less and make more by just focusing on my mindset, like all these people, like they're having 50K months and they say they're barely working. Yeah.
Sign me up. I would love to get rich and work 4 hours a week.
Exactly, especially coming from hustle culture, because Beachbody was hustle culture, like work a ton, and then I went to like the work less, like
Or like owning your own boutique. I'm sure there was a lot of work involved in that too,
yeah,
especially if it's like a brick and mortar. Like you actually have to show up in order to sell things.
exactly. I was there 8 hours a day, sometimes more during the holiday season. So that was like a big change. I was like, yes, I want to work less and stay at home with my fur babies, of course, and make more.
Exactly. Isn't that everyone's dream?
Exactly. So yeah, end of 2020 was a big wake up call for me, just like really becoming self-aware of like so many unethical things that I had done and just how I was so like selfish without realizing that I was being selfish, because I thought I was doing like what was best, and I thought, that I was just like thinking like long-term picture, like I'm here to help people, like truly just want to make a difference, make an income, make an impact. That's what they sell you in the coaching industry. And so I finished with my coach end of 2020. I decided to come back to my business in 2021. And I really took more time, I guess, to focus on like my personal life, because my marriage was kind of like rocky. But then I ended up signing with another coach. I'm still like in that mindset of, okay, well, I'm doing something. I need someone, like if I hire another coach, like that's going to get me back to like where I was when I first started and launched my business.
And you will never be successful if you don't have a mentor to hold your hand.
Exactly. And that was still in my mind. And also I was just like in a very like lonely place, like working from home, like not really having a lot of friends, not really being like in my life as much as I was on my phone. Like I kind of still felt like I needed like someone in my corner, like to talk to and like be my therapist or something like that, looking back. And so yeah, I hired another coach. I don't end up signing any clients with her. And so we finish, and then I end up signing with another coach in like this like group, I think like Telegram, for like a couple months. It's like a business, spiritual community. That doesn't help me with my business either. And so I didn't sign like any clients all of 2021. And I think that was like the last coach I had hired, and was like a big wake up call of me like still going into debt to work with coaches for my business, when my like original goal was like, debt freedom, but I'm like keep putting myself in credit card debt and making it worse. And even like just going into debt just to like up level like our lifestyle, because they teach you like to be your next level self now, so you need to live that lifestyle now.
Adopt that luxury lifestyle before you got the money for it, and the money will come after that.
Exactly.
Which,
And
like, when you say it
so
out loud now, it's like seems so ridiculous. Like, I'm not gonna just go buy a bunch of designer stuff to like trick the universe into thinking I'm rich. But when you are surrounded again by people that are like yes men of like that's how you do it, you're more likely to be like, okay, seems weird, but I'll try it and see.
and that's when I had just met like or got exposed to Amanda Francis too. So I was reading her How to Get Rich book, and she's just talking about like money's energy, like just spend it, it'll come back to you. And I hated following budgets because I wasn't taught to follow a budget from my family. And so if I could find someone who told me I didn't have to follow a budget, like I did it. And so I'm still trying to justify like all of these like expenses of me like racking up our credit card, but like no money's coming to me. And I just had like a big like again, like breakdown and like stress over debt. And I haven't used like a credit card or like gone into debt in like over a year, thankfully. That was a
Yeah.
big
So
thing.
what was the transition out like then? So you just like kind of decided enough was enough and then decided to close the business, or what did that look like?
So I did end up closing my LLC because I couldn't justify me paying like $350 fee every year in Tennessee. That's what it is. I don't know where it's at where you are. When I wasn't still like signing any clients, but I decided to like rebrand and get back to like my focus of like what I really like initially like felt passionate about helping people to begin with, which was like their mindset and like their habits and like personal growth. And I've been back consistently like on my Instagram, like just really focused on serving people and just creating content that of things that I've done in my life that have helped me for like the last like year or so. And I'm only offering like one-on-one mentorship. Like I no longer call myself a coach because I don't have any coaching certifications. I'm no longer following any business coaches anymore. I've got really strict boundaries like with my phone. Like I don't consume any coaching content anymore because it just like triggers like that like success obsession in me as someone who's naturally high achieving. And I've just been really focused on just being more in like my real life, like off my phone, like I got back into like a church and just really been growing like my faith and just really like just learning to listen more to God than to other people who are just like successful on the internet and just really have personal discernment. And that's been like really helpful to me to really like break some of those like toxic mindsets that I was like so brainwashed into the coaching industry. Like I feel like you really got to get some separation between you and it to get back to like reality.
Definitely. And just have that level of awareness to recognize when you're starting to like slip back into old patterns. Cause I know sometimes I'll even, not so much with like coaches, but maybe some people who would be like borderline coaches, I'll read copy that they've written or whatever. And I'll think like, ooh, maybe I do need that. Maybe that would be helpful. And then I'm like, Danielle, wait a minute. What are you doing? Like, abort, abort.
Exactly. And I like unfollowed like all the coaches that I worked with just because like I can't have their like how they are like in my mind. I just can't do it because I'll just like go back to like being obsessed and consumed with like always watching coaches and like trying to figure out like what I'm doing wrong in my business and like chasing what they have and like hoping like, well, maybe I should hire them. Like yeah, I can't do it.
For sure. So I guess I'd be curious to hear, you've kind of already touched on this in what you were just saying, but do you have any specific advice for anyone who's maybe in a similar situation where maybe they're involved in coaching, but they're kind of starting to see those red flags and they're thinking like maybe something weird is going on here? Like how can one who's in that position work to transition their way out of it, I suppose?
I definitely think it's helpful to get some outside perspective. Like my husband like tried to tell me like over and over, like we don't need to invest in this again. Like this is where we're at in our credit card. Like this is our monthly payment. Like all of our money is going to monthly payments. And I just wouldn't listen because I was just like so stubborn and so like my mind was so set on like this is a thing. Like this is gonna get me the six figures, like the success and like things like that. And I think it's important to like get some outside perspective, like from people who really care about you, from your husband if you're married, to really put some separation between you and like the coaching world and just really get some like different like reality, like real world perspective, I think is very important.
And I think that's such a healthy habit to adopt in like any facet of life, because I know like when you're in any profession, even me like as a creator, if I only ask my creator friends to give me feedback on what I'm doing, they're all going to be like, "Oh my god, yes, great." So it's nice to like, consult my partner or whoever who's not in the space of like, "Oh, maybe you should change this, maybe you should do that." And so I think like in coaching and just life in general, it's always helpful to be open to hearing perspectives from people who maybe aren't directly involved in the thing that you're doing. So I really appreciate you sharing
Yeah,
that. That's super
of
helpful.
course. And my husband is a business owner now too. Like he's had his own business for the last year and a half, and it's a traditional like brick and mortar business. So he can kind of give me, some feedback and be that more logical like mindset, like this is a business, like you're here, it's service, like, maybe you're not doing something like to serve people like you should be doing, instead of making it about you. Because I feel like as someone who like dealt with insecurity and like self-confidence issues like most of my life, when I joined the online world, it really becomes about you and like your brand and your business and your identity is attached to it. and that just made it worse. So it's like a high achiever. And everything in your business you think is a reflection of you, like your likes, your comments, your views, and it just becomes about you, and it's not about serving people, and that's what it's supposed to be at the end of the day.
Exactly. Like you would never see someone who owns like a hardware store have their sales be down and be like, "Oh, this means I'm a terrible person. I'm so horrible. I suck." It's like, no, but once you're in a business where like you are your business, it makes it so much harder to detach
Mm-hmm.
yourself. So
Yeah.
finding ways to do that is super, super helpful, I think.
Mm-hmm. Exactly.
Awesome. Is there anything else you want to share with people? Any parting words of
Mhm.
wisdom that you'd like to share before we jump off?
So something I really share a lot now on my page, because I definitely share my mentorship is geared towards like high achieving women, like in the coaching and personal development space, and primarily like women who are like are faith based. Just because that's like a big part of my life now. But I really share like don't go into debt to invest in yourself or your business, because I know like the harmful effects it had on me, like the stress that it causes, like the way it makes you only think about yourself because you need the money, especially if you don't have a job like backing you up. Like I haven't had a job, like, being a coach. So we were just relying on like my husband's income to make sure like we can pay, for the credit card payments and things like that. And you really don't realize the interest that builds, like how high the interest is on the credit cards. Like I never saw myself as someone who would have been so irresponsible and just like constantly like spending money I didn't have. And I did not expect that to happen. And that's what happened to me. And like I'm almost done like paying one loan off. I like did like a transfer a couple years ago, and that'll be paid off at the end of the year. Then I still have like some credit card debt that we're paying off. And of course, it's going to take some time because it's credit cards and interest. But I really would advise you to think big picture and long term before you invest with a credit card, and ask yourself like why you feel like you need this now. Like who's making you believe that you need this now?
Exactly. And I think this is such a validating conversation for me to have because I've always speculated that the coaches who we see have success really quickly, especially the ones that lean on the like rags to riches story of like, I was down to my last 5 cents and now I'm rich. I
Yeah.
always wondered if that sense of desperation of paying a coach and being in debt and not having a lot of money would make someone more willing to like compromise on what they see as morally right or wrong in
Yeah.
order to like cover that next payment. So it's interesting to have you come on and to share that so openly. I really do
Mhm.
appreciate that just because it's something that I've always kind of thought about, but I've never had anyone who is willing to admit it. So
And it took me like some time to admit it. And it definitely like my faith has helped with that. Like I'm a follower of Jesus, and I wasn't always like growing up, but like things that have happened to me in the coaching industry like really made me like reconnect back to my faith. And I've just really been more and more convicted, what's moral, what's ethical. So I think that's important too. Like I don't know if you have women of faith who watch this or listen, but if you do, like, does this align with your faith values? Like, because we're supposed to put people first as followers of Jesus, like not ourselves. And in the coaching industry, like I always like was convinced, like, make it about me.
make that money. Gotta be hitting those 10K months or whatever it is, it's just and I think too that kind of leads into a point where you're saying like don't invest in things you don't have money for. I think
Mhm.
also recognizing the opportunity to like learn from people and get sort of a form of mentorship in a way that doesn't cost money. Like there's so many
Yeah,
resources available online now that if you're in a position where you can't invest in learning from someone, there are alternative options available.
exactly. And like I'm right now not in a position to invest, nor do I have the desire to invest in a coach like for a while. Like who knows? It just depends like when I get to like a certain level in my business. But I have a friend, and we keep each other accountable to like all of our goals. And she has a different expertise than me. So we like are always bouncing ideas off of each other. So I think networking is really huge and really beneficial.
Yeah, that's awesome. And I think that's just a
Yeah.
really important sort of point to leave it on. So thank you so much, Kayla, for coming on and sharing your story. I really do appreciate
All right.
your time and your candid approach to just being honest about your experience.
Yeah, no problem.
I want to give a big shout out to Kayla for her transparency and her vulnerability in being willing to openly share her story and experience. As I've mentioned in many of my other videos, a lot of the times when we go through an experience like this, there's often a lot of shame and embarrassment that's associated with it. And so my hope is that by having you hear her story, that hopefully you'll be able to find a little bit of comfort or solace if you're someone who is going through something similar or has experienced something similar. So thank you again so much to Kayla if you're watching this video. And if you're not Kayla and you have a story you want to share, the form to submit your coaching scam story is linked in the description down below. That's going to be it for today's video. Be sure to give this video a thumbs up if you enjoyed, and I'm going to leave you on screen here with another Beachbody coach who fell into the coaches trap. Since we're on the topic of Beachbody, you can click right here on screen. Take care, comb your hair, and I'll see you in my next video. Bye!